All right, welcome into the Fourth Floor, an extension of 5 on the Floor here on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. Thanks, as always, to our sponsors, Biscayne Bay Brewing. You just saw them come in. That's the official beer of the 5 Reasons Sports Network and the Miami Marlins. We've also got kiosks at that arena that nobody's gotten to go to in a whole lot of days, FTX Arena. They're on the 100 level and the 300 level. Get the Tropical Bay IPA, the Pastime Pilsner, the Marlins Lager, all the other great beers of Biscayne Bay Brewing, the Regatta Double IPA. Ask for it when you're a local restaurant, whether you're at, a Quarter Deck, another of our sponsors. They have it there. They have the Tropical Bay IPA. Also at many local Whole Foods, Publix, Winn-Dixie's, and many other local supermarkets. Check out Biscayne Bay Brewing. Also, meet with my friend Mark Brown. I actually did that today. That's the only time I left the house today. Go to Mark Brown, marcbrownpa.com. That's marcbrownpa.com. And help him get you an estate plan together. I'm just giving it away. My daughter's getting everything. Not that I have anything. But go to markbrownpa.com. He'll sit down and work with you on it. 954-566-5678. 954-566-5678. Reach out to Mark. Also, a big Miami sports fan. And he can help you with your title, too, if you're working on a closing for real estate. People, I guess, will start selling houses again here soon. Go to markbrownpa.com. 954-566-5678. And mention 5 Reasons. All right, here's the crew tonight. You can follow me, Ethan J. Skolnick at 5 Reasons Sports. You can follow Greg Sylvander at Greg Sylvander. Brady Hawk out of Protocols, Brady Hawk 305. And Mateo Mayorga, you can follow him. He writes for the site as well. Mateo Mayorga 23 on Twitter. And, of course, our producer, Alejandro VG32, with a very cool hat, which you can get on our website. He played the Hawks. This is a 2-game set. It's weird because they're on a road trip still, but people forgot about them because they had 3 days off on the road, and now they're playing in Atlanta, and then they're going to come home and play a back-to-back. So a lot of time off, and then after this, they play Atlanta and Philadelphia in a back-to-back, and then they play again on Monday against Toronto. So they'll have 3 games in 4 days after this one, after not playing in quite a bit of time. But, Brady, let's get to it. Guys are starting to trickle back in. Who's back tonight?
Yeah, they're definitely getting healthier, especially on the role player side of things. Gabe Vincent exited the Protocols a couple days ago, but obviously he wasn't ready to play. He is ready to play tonight. And then obviously the one at the last second was Dwayne Dedman will play, come back from injury. And I think this is going to be a same scenario as we've seen. I think this is how they've kind of went toward the hot hand with a Max Strus over a Duncan Robinson, which I think does continue. I think they continue to start him as long as he keeps producing. But I think Omer Yurtseven probably stays in the starting lineup tonight. It just seems like a PJ Tucker thing where they put him off the bench to kind of get him going early on. So I think he is still a bench player. But obviously, it doesn't really matter who starts and who doesn't. They just need these guys back.
Well, the good news, Greg, is, very nice gentleman, but we won't see Chris Silva, I don't think, very much anymore because Dwayne Dedman takes that spot. What's interesting at this stage is, and I agree with Brady, they'll work the guys back in slowly. I don't think Robinson's going to start again. No. Let me finish. I know you want to say he's not going to start again at all. I don't think he starts again until Jimmy and Bam are back.
Oh, I agree.
Or at least Jimmy is back. I think they need the shot creation in the starting lineup, and Strus gives them more of that. So I would anticipate that. But it seems like what's happened now, all the role guys are back. I mean, I don't want to count Morris because I can't say one thing one way or the other, and now he's in the Protocols as well. But all of the other role guys, hello, Brandon, are back. We're just waiting on the stars now. You're just waiting on Jimmy and Bam and then whatever Oladipo is, right? So we've seen all, and I did an episode with Sean Rochester starting 9 today. We were kind of talking about, the musical chairs game and who's going to be left without a chair. But the role players have another opportunity here until Jimmy and Bam are back to kind of prove that they need to be kept in the rotation when those guys return.
Such a good point. And at Atlanta is always a great forum with which the role players can flourish. I just remember all the games. The Terrell Harris game was in Atlanta, stuff like that. There's no the role players have played so good that to me, my expectations are that they win this game, even though they're shorthanded. I know Atlanta's shorthanded as well, but there's a couple things that really play into this. As I was digging into the statistics before pre-show. Do you know that since December 21st, Miami ranks 2nd in the NBA in points per 100 possessions at 116.1 per game? Wow. Only team better is Chicago. And Atlanta, in their last, I think, 20, are allowing 116.2 per 100 possessions. That's the second worst defense in the league. So to me, all the signs point for this game to be able to be won by Miami. They need to get out early, get ahead of these guys. I know Trae Young can scare us at time, but we've got Namdi back for the point of attack defense. And what'll be interesting to see is how Spo manages the Yurt but Yurt and Dedmon, and just like how much Dedmon can kind of get shifted back into the rotation, or is it PJ at the 5 exclusively still?
And we'll mention prize picks here in a second, but if you want to bet tonight, go to betus.com.
I got 3 picks.
Yeah, we're going to go to them. We're going to use the code 5 also at betus.com because the Heat are 3-point dogs in Atlanta tonight, which surprised me. I don't know if the number has stayed there. It's obviously a Jimmy factor. But Mateo, the Hawks have not been playing particularly well. There seems to be some internal issues there also. John Collins not thrilled with his role. Some talk about trading him again. But they've had a bunch of wings, defensive wings, whether it's a Reddish or a Hunter or a Solomon Hill, that are all 3 guys may not play that way because it doesn't look like Reddish may play tonight either. What's up in Atlanta? Because this was supposed to be the only team that could really challenge the Heat in the division, and it hasn't turned out that way.
Well, they're a team underperforming, but their bread and butter is attacking through the pick and roll. It's 40% of what they do on the offensive side of the court, primarily with the ball handler trying to get open on the wing for a triple or to dive to the hole to get to the free throw line to cut the clock. So in situations where they're trying to attack the interior, Miami Heat's second line of defense is going to have to ice to force the ball handler, most likely Trae Young, into a trap on the baseline. Now, that's easier said than done when you're dealing with someone as dynamic as him, but they are also a very good team in eviscerating the first line of defense and getting to the free throw line or free throw line extended. And what this does with the remaining defense is it collapses what's left, and this leaves the perimeter open, specifically the corners. The Atlanta Hawks generate about 20 catch and shoot opportunities per game, which is 29th most in the league. It ain't much. However, it's the second highest efficiency in the league for them, which means they can really burn you. What the Heat are going to have to do tonight, Ethan, and get the rest of y'all, is they're going to have to show some success in the half-court sets of getting the ball out of Trae Young's hands, because when he's off ball, he turns into a statue waiting for the kick-out pass on the perimeter, and he's doing the defense a favor. And that's a little bit about the Hawks and what the Heat got to do.
All right, so Brady, I'll pivot to you on this because we talk about what they got to do on the defensive end. On the offensive end, we saw them spamming through Omer the other night. I agree with you. He'll likely be the starter. Dedmon's coming off the bench. No Capella tonight, right? He's doubtful, so that creates a little bit of a hole in the interior. Feels like there's some things they can go to in there again instead of just bombing away with 53s with now Vincent, Strus, Robinson, Hero, all sort of out there.
Yeah, I don't think they go back to what they did against the Suns, where they kind of changed everything up and went through Omer. That was like the first time we've seen that. I thought that was just a Spoelstra thing to just try and surprise the best team in the NBA. I think they go back through working everything through PJ. And like you mentioned, I feel like there may be a hole there with the big men that I think working it through PJ just opens things up for Omer. Now you can see him go back to what he's been doing. I think they probably spam. Speaking of spamming pick and rolls, you probably see a bunch of Kyle Lowry, Omer Yurtseven pick and rolls to start. And I think they're going to try to just put Trae Young in a bind and make him, that second defender make a decision. That just seems like the way they're going to go. And then obviously Trae on the other end, I just do want to say, when you're talking about defensively, Gabe Vincent takes a ton of pressure off of Caleb Martin. Like if we're talking about anything that he provides, like Caleb Martin may be in the starting lineup. They're going to see each other, play next to each other a ton just because they're going to run a ton of 2-2-1 press, because if those two guys are in the rotation, they're going to go to it. Trae Young is going to have a rough time because those are two guys you do not want on you all night, and they're going to be switching on and off of them. So it's just going to be interesting there. But I do think this is a game where it's a good game for Dedmon to get his feet wet again, and I think it's a good game for Omer to continue the production that he's been giving.
Yeah, Trae's had some rough nights against the Heat to begin with, actually. I'm with you with some of the pieces that are back tonight. It could be come tougher. Greg, I was looking at the odds with our guy Jim Rodriguez, J-Rod show. We do the betting show together, and we're looking at the numbers, and it's fascinating to me that the Nets are still prohibitive favorites by the bookies to come out of the East. Pretty much, it's if you look at the order that they have the East, I mean, Brooklyn is number 1 in the league still, which I just don't understand. I mean, I know the star power, but I mean, the way they've actually played against contenders, it's a weird one to me. And then Milwaukee's been below them, and then Miami, and then Chicago right below. They actually have Miami with the same 12-1 odds now as the Lakers and the Jazz, which is two interesting stories. One team that's actually played well and one that hasn't, but the other has reputation. I do feel like we're entering into the statement portion of the season, though. Like for the Heat, right? I mean, you look at these 2 games against Atlanta. You could basically bury what was supposed to be a division rival, and then you're coming home. Philadelphia team you've beaten once already. They're having major issues there. Tobias Harris is telling the fans to shut up when he makes shots. And then you get Toronto, and then there's a bunch of soft teams in there. Like, we are entering the stretch that we've talked about.
Yeah, and I think it was Ariel Atias who tweeted out that 25 of the next 41 are at home or something like
25
that.
of the last 41 are at home.
I mean, so when we talk about statement games, there's a couple things. I think that we can't get too lost in the weeds about like a home and home with Atlanta necessarily, but they're going to have plenty of time to like stack up victories. So to your point, like they've made some statement victories in the first half, but this is where they really solidify their spot. I feel like we probably thought they would be a lot further away from the top seed in the conference 41 games through. So there's a real opportunity there. And I'm interested to see how that impacts decision-making related to the roster and just how they approach that, because they really have a true shot of making the Eastern Conference go through FTX Arena, which is not something that I think any of us conceptualized to start the season. So you're right. There's a lot of statement games to be made. I just don't want to make too much of these, Atlanta games when we still don't have Jimmy and Bam, but they are getting closer. So I would say the Philadelphia matchup is more informative because I don't expect Atlanta to make the playoffs. I think that they're going to crater out completely. I would not be surprised if they shake up things at the deadline. Obviously, you and I have both heard things behind the scenes there, even related to Trae Young and his teammates. So I think Atlanta's kind of in shambles. So they better get these victories. And I know our friend Adam Barai said they got no excuses the next 2 games. But let's not go too crazy if they do slip one here.
Well, I'm going to tell you, the thing about Atlanta is this. We buried them last year. Before they made the coaching change. I remember, the Heat lost a home game to them right after the change. And then, they went up to Atlanta and they lost to a team that didn't have any of its players that night, which was actually the loss that we looked back at the end of the season. And it was like, that's one of them that cost them seeding was Atlanta didn't have all those players. I still feel I'm not with Greg on. I think they make the playoffs. I mean, let's look at the East a little bit, right? Okay. The short 4, okay. At this stage, you're talking in some order or another: Brooklyn, Milwaukee, Chicago, Miami. Right? Okay, those are the 4. You assume Philadelphia is a playoff team. Okay. Beyond that, in some ways, as long as Embiid stays healthy. So
in Cleveland.
See, I'm not 100% sold on that. I want to say, they've lost a couple of important pieces here. But beyond those 5, who's your lock? Because I thought Atlanta was a lock.
I don't really think there is a lock. There's just those teams have been underperforming. To Greg's point with the Atlanta Hawks, we got about half the season left. This is around the point where they started to turn it around last year. And what's different about them, they had some semblance of an identity into the postseason, but this far into the season, that has not been the case. Greg mentioned one stat that points to them being one of the worst defenses in the league. They, over their last 15 games, are giving up worse than league average behind the 3-point line. The league average is 35%. Right now, they're giving up over 38%. They could get it together. I don't really think there's you can definitively say anybody outside the top 4 or 5 is going to make it. It's not the top of the conference is very good, but the rest I wouldn't. There's nothing to sneeze at.
But Brady, they could make a consolidation trade, right? Don't they have too many? It seems to me like they got too many similar pieces. We talked about them as a team that was dangerous because they could make a consolidation trade.
Yeah.
Now we're seeing like some of the guys you would make consolidation trades for are going to be out a long time or out for the season. You're starting to see some stars. Lillard's surgery, obviously. What's happened with the Clippers? Not that there was going to be a trade. We don't even know if Paul George and Dame Lillard may both be out for the season. Kawhi Leonard may not return. You're starting to see some of these teams kind of fall off a little bit where they don't have hope. I feel like Atlanta, as long as Trae stays healthy, they could reshuffle this thing around him, right? Like they have, you could trade Cam Reddish, you could trade John Collins, you could trade Bogdanovich.
And we talked about them, kind of putting those guys together and trading them out. But now you're actually seeing them in this type of spot where guys are unhappy. Like you're talking about John Collins, you're talking about these other guys, and they're below, not even in the playoff circle. Like now it's even a totally different situation. We were saying before, if they're like in a 6 or a 5, they could just make that next jump into the next tier of teams, and they can, kind of take that next leap. Now it's just like they're going to be in a weird spot where they just totally have to go in, and I think they're going to have to. I think they're going to. I don't know if John Collins is there past the deadline. Like I just don't see a way. I feel like they can kind of figure something out there. Like it just feels like they have to get something. We could talk about a Ben Simmons, or I just don't think that could work because Philly just wants too much. But I don't think that's the worst idea either. Like getting a defensive guy to put next to Trae Young, and it's not much different. I just feel like that doesn't make that's not a worse idea, but I feel like they do have options because, as we've said, they do have assets, unlike a lot of the teams that are kind of in their range.
All right, let's get to some predictions for tonight, brought to you by MarkBrownPA.com. Check them out. Also, we mentioned PrizePicks.com. Use the code 5 for you get your initial deposit match. This one goes in from our Brock. And we always appreciate the donation. We will always read the comments. Can Atlanta go for Siakam and Ben Simmons? I feel like they could go for Ben, but from what I've heard about Morey's situation is he's holding out for a top 20 player, okay? And he's going to hold out. I've heard this from 2 GMs around the NBA right now. He's holding out for a top 20 player. He's going to wait until he gets him or until Embiid or ownership forces his hand. I don't know which is going to happen first, but I feel like he takes him into the offseason, okay? If he doesn't end up playing, I know they had the meeting with Rich Paul and Clutch today, takes him into the offseason and then makes the move then maybe where he feels like he has a little bit more leverage, but he's holding out for a top 20. I was told a guy like CJ McCollum, Morey's not going to make a trade for him. Now, obviously, we know Portland may be in a rebuilding stage here completely. So there we go. All right, let's get to the predictions. We'll start with Mateo today. Who do you like?
Oh, of course, the Miami Heat. They're going to take this one. Absolutely.
It's fair. I feel I know where Greg's going, so let me go to Brady here in the middle.
Yeah, I do think Miami wins. I feel like this is another one of those big-time role player games because all they basically have is role players. Like, they have a team of role players right now. But Gabe Vincent, I feel like, has another big one. Like, he had probably his biggest stretch of the season right before he went into protocols, which is something we talked about with Caleb Martin. He came right back and had another big game. I think it was like 7 games before he entered protocols. He was averaging like 16 on 42% shooting. I think he has another big one. Like, I feel like this is a time, like, this is obviously – they're in win now mode as a team, but obviously you're playing for spots as well. Like, as much as these guys know that they want to try to crack into that rotation come playoff time. And I think he has a chance at it if he continues that type of play. So I think he has another big offensive game. And I think it helps out Tyler Hero. I feel like this is one of those games. If you're talking about a Gabe Vincent, Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson trio off the bench, like that's not that is a winnable game if you're Miami going into Atlanta.
Well, Strussel's had a big game coming out of protocols. It feels like maybe as long as the guys don't have significant COVID symptoms, they come out ready to go. Greg, Guts?
Well, since I'm going to take the Heat, I'm going to give you 3 prize picks for everybody.
Right.
Yurtsevin, 12 rebounds. He has done that 5 out of 5 games, so I would go over there. Caleb Martin, 10.5 points. He's done that 4 out of his last 5 games. I would go over on him. And for a bonus pick, even though you guys know I don't love him, Joel Embiid, 30.5 points. He's done that well over 5 straight. Go over there. So there's your picks from Greg today.
And you're picking the Heat. We know that. Use the code 5 when you sign up. You get your initial deposit matched over at PrizePicks.com. You get that from us. You don't get that from everybody else. Go to PrizePicks.com. Use the code 5. You don't have to play all. Put down $100. They give you $100. You don't have to play the 100 all at once. You can play 20 or whatever. You can also play NHL. And, of course, you can play the NFL games coming up this weekend if you'd like. All right, Alejandro's going to take you from here. Appreciate Mateo. Appreciate Brady. Greg and I will be back on 5 on the floor tonight, likely with Alex. Also, make sure you check out the PJ Tucker Appreciation episode that is currently in rotation at 5 on the floor. And Pace and Space at halftime. I got dragged into that, so I'll be on that. And then Post Up 5R with Royal hosting after the game. Have a good day, everybody.
Alex, nothing. Cooper, definitely nothing.
We're all clear here on Zoom.
All right. Thank you. Cool. Oh, he loves it. Yeah. Absolutely. He will definitely be watching. Yeah. Good to see you.
uh, they're going to come out and play. They're going to bring energy, and nothing changes when they lose guys. They're going to play with intensity. They're going to get after you for 48 minutes. So it's a team that is very efficient offensively. They're physical defensively, and they're connected out there on both ends of the floor.
Hey, Nate, first of all, how are you feeling?
Better.
Secondly, the time that you've had away, what have you been able to gather being able to watch the team during this stretch that you feel like you need to bring into this home stretch?
Well, the thing is we need to, how can I put it? We need to take off. I heard a coach one time say, take off the tuxedo, and we need to put on a hard hat, and we need to go to work. And, we got to play harder than our opponent. We got to execute better than our opponent, and we got to be connected on both ends of the floor. So, those are things that I see or I saw, and those are the things that we were working on when I was last coaching. So got to put the hard hat on and go to work.
Following that up, being back on the bench, you think you'll be able to convey that a little easier and maybe with more force?
I hope so. That's the plan. That's the message. And we know that that's what we have to do. Coming off the road and being with 17-22 and with this home stretch, you take it one game at a time, but we have to make up for the games that we've dropped in this home stretch.
Any more questions?
Just as simple, have you, any of the game time decisions from this morning, any of those guys, do you have updates on?
No, I don't.
Okay, not yet. Thanks.
I'm not sure if you were asked this morning or not, but with all the trade rumors and everything that have circulated and which is pretty normal this time of year, how much are you involved in that? And how much do you just sort of sit back and say, look, I just got to coach the guys here. I can't get caught up in that.
My focus is on our guys and our opponent. And, so that's where all my attention is at.
How much do you feel like with all the guys being out and then coming back, chemistry has to not develop again, but get to be a little bit more, how can I say, concrete as it was before guys start falling out?
Absolutely. Some of our guys until yesterday, I hadn't seen in close to a month. And when you have guys going out with injuries, then going out in the safety protocol, when I went out, a couple guys came back. So, I didn't have an opportunity to see those guys except for Zoom calls and speaking with them on the phone. And it's definitely going to have an impact on your chemistry. This time of the season, when you get into January, is when you should be playing really good basketball, better basketball. You spend November and December building that chemistry and that connection out on the floor and, conditioning and all of that. And we really didn't have that opportunity because we had so many injuries. We've had a number of guys in the protocol, but a lot of other teams have had the same thing, so it's something that you certainly expect to be in a better place at this time, but we have to deal with what we have to deal with. And, tonight we'll be missing a guy or two, and we have to play with the guys that we have, so you have to build that. It's ways of doing that. Okay, there's ways of being connected and working to be connected in that chemistry with the guys that you have in uniform. And that starts with us working.
On Zoom, we have a question from Kevin Chenard.
With Gorgie coming out of the protocols, was he able to participate in yesterday's practice or today's shoot around? Is he someone you can go to if Clint can't go?
Yes, he did practice yesterday. It was his first time running, and he did participate in the walkthrough this morning. So he's available for us.
Next, we have a question on Zoom from Charles Odom.
You said you felt better, and I'm glad you do. But are there any lingering effects, and can you just reveal more of what you went through while missing these last 4?
No, I feel much better. A few days ago, there was a fatigue factor, a little cough, and, kind of the symptoms that everybody else was experiencing. Those went away, and I was able to get through protocol, getting my numbers high enough so that the NBA would allow me to come back. And, so I'm back and looking forward to getting to work here.
One more question on Zoom from AJ from Hawks Fan TV.
Hey, Coach. Good to have you back in the fold, and good to see you healthy and that you cleared protocols. Thanks. Good to hear that. Had a question here about something we noticed defensively in the past 7 games. 4 of the last 7, we've allowed 130 plus points. Obviously, not a winning formula here in the NBA. So I wanted to see if you had any specific messaging, you and the coaching staff with the players, on how to, stop that trend and get back to playing good. It looked like Sunday that you guys got a little bit better, but maybe shots weren't falling. So just wanted to see what you guys had for the players.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing that we say every night. It starts with controlling the basketball. We have to be more aggressive, challenging every catch, every dribble, being more connected out on the defensive end of the floor. I thought that we did do some things a little better at the start of the game, but what I saw also was the fact that, we were playing defense and we just didn't seem like we had the energy to push the ball and attack on the offensive end of the floor. So conditioning yourself to play both ends of the floor for 48 minutes and doing the things that it takes to win, we may have to shorten some rotations, to get that urgency, from our guys. But defense is defense. It starts with controlling the basketball, and we got to do a better job of controlling the basketball in one-on-one situations. When there is a breakdown, your weak side help must be there, and then you must finish the play with a rebound. But I've always said that your defense, especially defensive transition, starts with your offensive execution. If you're turning the ball over, you're taking quick shots, that's going to put a lot of pressure on your defense, and we got to do a better job of executing on the offensive end of the floor, taking care of the basketball so that we are not giving up easy opportunities to the opponent.
I appreciate it, Coach.
Your business in a cost-effective way.
5 on the floor, ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing, you can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frauds. Just like Buck said, you in trouble, y'all. Kept the floor playing, got it all banned. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, it's power, have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, and Alex Toledo, plus others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Welcome to the latest episode of 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app. We're on Podbean, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. We're also on Dash Radio on their Nothing But Net channel. That's every single weeknight at 7 p.m. Also, check out the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. If you weren't subscribed today, you probably missed everything with the Brian Flores fallout. We had a 2-hour streaming show. We had Dono Daily. We do a ton of stuff over there, including before floor, an hour before every Heat game, and post up 5R as soon as the Heat game ends. Also, 5reasonsports.com. The latest stories from Louis Sung, Brady Hawk, and others from our network. We do not have a paywall. And check out the great sponsors of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Includes our friends over at Intense Nutrition. We just came out of the holidays. You need to lose 10 to 15 pounds. This is where you want to go. They can help you do it in 10 days with the Intense Cleanse and Detox. Check them out at 2540 North University Drive. That's 2540 North University Drive in Coral Springs. The phone number is 954-775-0257. This is where you go if you're tired of the 3-letter chain that doesn't work with you directly. They just try to sell you whatever corporate tries to get you to get. No, they will tell you exactly what you need for your body. So whether it's the specific stacks or whether you're a budding athlete, you want to fight cold and flu season, you need the pre and pro-stat workout regimen stuff, they've got it there. Superior quality, superior service. And here's the thing. If you mention 5 reasons, you get 20% off everything in the store but protein. That's mention 5 reasons, 20% off everything in the store but protein. Intense Nutrition, 954-775-0257. My voice will get better. I've been talking a lot of Brian Flores today. We get to talk about something happy now. And now, today's episode. All right, Ethan Skolnick back on 5 on the floor. Here's today's floor plan. I've got Alex Toledo. You can follow him at Tropical Blanket. And I've got Brady Hawk, whose appearances are sponsored here by the law office of Eric Matthew Rubenstein, who specializes in personal injury law. Reach out to Eric at 954-829-ERIC. That's 954-829-ERIC for Eric. If you have any kind of a personal injury law issue or question, they can help you with car accidents, slip and falls, and medical malpractice. Big Miami sports fan. He's down here at all the Heat games. And he's from St. Thomas University. So he's from right here in South Florida. So reach out to Eric at 954-829-ERIC. And what we're going to talk about today is PJ Tucker, just PJ Tucker. There's an article on our site that I mentioned earlier from Brady Hawk, which kind of gets into everything he's been asked to do this year, a lot of which he was never asked to do before, and why he's been so central to them. And one of the reasons I want to do this episode is because obviously there's a lot of respect for what Omer Yurtseven has accomplished with Dedmon out, with Bam out. And so, of course, everybody gets ahead of themselves. And now there's a push. Well, Omer should be playing with Bam, and Bam should come back as a power forward. And that's the best way to work out the rotation. But if you've been following this Heat team closely, you would not think about cutting PJ Tucker's minutes unless you're resting him for his 35-minute-a-game role in the playoffs, because he's been terrific. In my view, he's been more important than Jay Crowder was to them. And I'm not disparaging Jay, but we talked up Jay a lot. PJ does more things than Jay. You can run more offense through PJ. And again, he has been unlocked by Eric Spoelstra. You know, it's not just the 22-year-olds that Eric Spoelstra seems to be getting the most out of. It's a guy in his mid-30s who some people thought couldn't give you a whole lot more. So I'm going to turn this over to Brady and Alex for this episode. We're going to start with the offense, and then we're going to talk after the break about the defense. Let's get into the offense here because, Brady, I think when he came, the thought was corner three-point shooter. He's really good at that. You don't really want to give him the ball in any kind of space. Not a great finisher. Certainly not going to be playmaking with him. Eric Spoelstra saw something different.
Yeah, he basically turned everything around. And I do want to say, to start out with the numbers, the only thing that did stay similar is that this is actually a career year in his highest percent of shots from the corner. I think he's at, like, the last time before this past game, he was at 91.4% of his shots were coming from the corner, which is the highest rank of his career. So he's not changing too much up from that degree. He's still getting a ton of shots up. And I think it's also because his shots have raised in general, just because of the role that's opened up. But just starters, he's shooting 47% from 3. Like, that's just incredible in itself. Like, we're talking about a guy that's literally number 1 in the league in 3-point percentage. I just talked about Cody Martin and him were like neck and neck for number 1. And this past game put PJ over the mark where he's number 1 right now, which is just insane that he's able to do this on increased volume and just to be able to do it. And you're talking about even in the last game, you see him hit the top of the key 3. Like, he's hitting all type of shots and he's getting into his offense in different ways. But the thing that Spoelstra is doing basically is, like I said, Jimmy Butler's a mid-post guy. Bam Adebayo is a mid-post guy. How are they going to emulate the things that they did when they went out? And the way they looked was PJ Tucker. And I don't think really anybody expected that. We know what PJ is at this stage of his career. And I didn't think they would be running offense through him on the strong side, basically putting him on that wing 3 with his back to the basket and telling him, we're going to spam stuff on the weak side. We're going to do a whole bunch of misdirection, off-ball screening, cutting, handoffs, and everything is going to be through you when the ball's not in Kyle Lowry's hands. And I think that is just incredible to talk about. You just mentioned you're talking about a bunch of 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds that Spoelstra was able to develop. But to change up a guy like that, a veteran on this team, and be able to do that is just insane. And I think the screening has been contagious because this has been a really good screening team. Even though Mayer just stepped up, probably had one of his better screening games of the season against the Suns. Like, that's probably what Spoelstra admires the most when he talks about PJ Tucker, is just how he's one of the best screeners he's ever seen. Because I was looking at it, I went over a possession today on Twitter where PJ basically leveled 2 guys on a fair legal screen, and Max Strus got a wide open 3 because of it on this handoff, because PJ Tucker just basically eliminates guys constantly. So it's all that combined. And then obviously something me and Alex talked about before the season, early in the season, when he kept going in pregame warmups, he kept working on the floater where he kept just going and spamming that he put 2 feet on the floor, kind of rise up with 2 feet and go for that one-hand floater. He was doing it nonstop, probably more than he was shooting the corner 3. And then all of a sudden this season, we've seen him be a slip screen guy where they hit him in that valve of the offense and he goes up and hits that. And he's hitting at a really high clip. I don't have the number on me, but it's been an insane number as well. So it's just seeing everything come together in a way where you see great players do, great offensive players do. And this is a guy that we talked about in the past, or people have talked about in the past, and put the label offensive limitations on him. It's just crazy to see where that has gone.
Yeah, and Max Strus actually a couple of games ago, before Max I think went into the protocols, where he posted on Instagram a picture of PJ Tucker literally lying on the baseline. It's like, that's why I get most of my shots. Alex, when we talked about PJ, you liked the PJ acquisition. We talked about acreage. It was more so, again, about rebounding, creating rebounds for others, and the defensive end, which we're going to talk about in the second half of the episode. I don't know that any team in the league ever envisioned this. I mean, the most creative thing that was ever done with PJ Tucker was, we don't have any bigs in Houston, so let's put him at the 5. And he handled that from a defensive responsibility standpoint. But even then, nothing was really counted on from him offensively. So what has stuck out to you the most about what Spoelstra's done here?
I mean, it's actually hard to pick one. And I know Brady just went over it a lot, but it's just honestly, as much as I liked and wanted PJ Tucker on this team since last season, since before the trade deadline, like you said, it was mostly for the defensive stuff, the rebounding stuff, all the, the non-stat sheet stuff that we know that PJ has done, which he's obviously been great at. But you talk about him being a high IQ player and just a skilled player. It's on both ends. Like, he actually has these skills there, and Spo knows it, or else he wouldn't be empowering him in these positions. And I know a lot of it obviously has had to do with Bam being out, then Dwayne Dedmon being out. So he kind of has to increase the load there. And then they've had multiple playmakers out. So they need other guys to step up there. And PJ's been that guy, but they've done it in so many different ways where it's like, this guy just knows how to play at all different positions of the floor. He knows how to space the floor. He knows how to get out of the guy's way. He knows when to screen and roll. And also what Brady mentioned with the slip screen is such a great release valve for when other teams try to switch on the Heat, because we know that they've struggled against that. And the like Nikias will always say, the best way to beat a switch is with a slip. And PJ Tucker is really good at that. That's how he gets into those little floaters. So he can get into it as a roller or slipping, right? So I just think the fact that they're kind of using him as a screener at all points, he knows that he's always looking to get the other shooters open. And I just think it's been a huge part of why this kind of shooting revolution has happened with the Heat, right? That even if some of it falls back a little bit when they bring Jimmy and Bam back, like, that part of it is always going to exist, right? PJ is always going to create openings for guys, whether it's as a screener for somebody with the ball or as a handoff man, like for a shooter. Like, I just think they use him in all these different types of positions. And Spo, I just think, he's really got it in his bag here with PJ. I didn't know he could do all of that with the ball in his hands. He's also a great passer. The guy is just an excellent high IQ two-way player.
How does Bam's return change this, Brady? Because I feel like some of this maybe Eric planned on doing, and some of it was by necessity because he didn't have another big who could replicate any of the things that Bam does.
I think, first of all, you can look at this game against the Suns where he changed PJ's role completely in a way that you wouldn't expect, where we talked about the other day where Omer became the primary passer and playmaker, and they said, PJ, you be the dunker spot guy. And when they run these actions, you're going to be the screener instead of the handoff guy, because he can do either one. And like I just said, and it was led to things like Strus getting a wide open 3 on an off-ball screen. So I think the way it is that Bam is still going to get primarily all the looks on that side. I'm getting the strong side insertion, kind of playmaking in that way. PJ is going to probably be on the weak side somewhere, either in the corner or off-ball screening. But the thing is that they found something here where they can stagger Bam and PJ like really well. And I don't think that's something we talked about before the season at all. We talked about they can stagger Kyle and Jimmy. They can stagger Tyler with one of them. But we didn't talk about them staggering PJ with Bam. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that we've taken away from lineups, that they can kind of go in that way. And I think that leads into some things with the rotation with big men, because I feel like they can survive no matter who the matchup is, or most matchups with PJ at the 5. We've seen that when they went on that little bit of a run mid-season they were winning games with KZ Okpala and PJ Tucker in the front court. Like that was a viable option offensively, but it was also a good one defensively. So I think the way they're going to go about it is basically return all the way to the way it was when all of them are on the floor. When it's Bam and PJ next to each other, I think it'll be primarily Bam. But the biggest difference is going to be there's still going to be an identity when Bam's off the floor because now they have a guy to run stuff.
Is there another place they can take this, Alex? Because we didn't anticipate Spoelstra doing this, but is there something else now that you've seen in PJ's game that, again, when hopefully, we don't know for sure, but when you get Bam and Jimmy and maybe even Oladipo on the court, Hero, Duncan, Strus, all of these players, that there's still another place that maybe they can go to with PJ when all these other guys are maybe taking up some of the responsibilities that he's been given?
Well, I mean, I don't think there's really more places to go. I feel like Spo has kind of like gone through everything at this point. I think, and it's a good thing because now we know that he can be used in all these different spots. And obviously, like the spacing is different. If you're talking about playing PJ with Jimmy and Bam, it's going to be a different formula than the Heat play. And I like what Coop was saying. Cooper Moorhead on Twitter was saying that like what they've been doing without Jimmy and Bam. I tend to agree with this. Is a great regular season formula, but their regular identity with the team healthy is more suited for a physical playoff series where a lot of those shots that they're getting right now might not be available. A lot of contesting, a lot of fouling going on. But I just think in general, he is somebody like Brady was talking about, staggering Bam and PJ. I think we knew that could happen specifically for the defensive stuff. Like if you felt you had to downsize, if Dedmon was getting played off by somebody like as a counter. But to Brady's point, it's more about like, okay, PJ is going to actually replicate some of the Bam stuff on offense. And it's actually a really consistent thing. It's not just like a fluky, oh, you're going to have to do this while he's out type of thing. This guy is just skilled. He understands the game. He understands where guys are supposed to be and how to make reads. Like he's been around the game since he's been flying around the league since 2006. So, he knows what's going on out there. And I really do think that even though he's only played 7% of his minutes at the center, that is something that they can do still in the playoffs. Like he can really be used in a variety of ways on or off the ball on both ends of the floor. It's great. It's why also he's got his best win shares per 48, according to Basketball Reference. He's at the highest, I think, true shooting percentage of his career, highest estimated wins. I'm sorry, I was just looking at all of these right now. I mean, he is like at career highs in a bunch of these shooting percentages too. I just think like he's having kind of a career year with what he's doing and the variety of stuff he's doing out there.
All right, we're going to talk about the defense now because I think that a lot was anticipated from him defensively, but he's been even more there maybe than we projected and kind of irreplaceable. So I'm going to let Alex and Brady weigh in on that when we come back. But before we do, I want to tell you about a couple of our codes here, special sponsorship codes. One, Daily Fantasy. You want to be playing prizepicks.com. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E, get your initial deposit match. So you put down $100. They will give you $100 to play with. You don't need to play with it all at once. You can play $20 to start if you want it. Of course, you don't just have to play NBA. If you want to play NHL or any of the other sports that are going, you certainly can do that also. So go to prizepicks.com. Use the code 5. It is legal in the state of Florida. FIVE. Some other things are not legal. That is legal. Okay, so go to prizepicks.com, use the code 5. And then our promo code for products is 5RSN. You can use that for your grooming products at manscaped.com, get 20% off. For your CBD at therapistpreferred.com, that's premium CBD, whether it's the tincture, the sports cream, or the gummies. And also a new product that we're promoting here called Salis. It's SALIS. If you're an endurance runner, you do any kind of endurance activities, this is for you because it helps replace your electrolytes and you get 10% off using the code 5RSN. That's 10% off using the code 5RSN at SALIS. Actually, it's Get Salis. That's the website, getsalis.com, GETSALIS.com. So check it out. Go to the website, use our codes 5RSN at those 3 sites. All right, let's get to the defense. I mentioned the Houston experience. I'll start with Alex on this first. The Houston experience was basically, you're going to be our center. Like, we don't have anybody else. Okay. We're trading Clint Capella. You're 6'5" tall and about 6'5" wide. And we're going to get you to basically try to box guys out of the paint and compete. And he did that after being, playing the 3 a lot earlier in his career. He ended up playing the 5. But with this team, it feels like there's more being asked of him in different ways. So let's get into what it's looked like without Bam, and then again, what it would look like with Bam.
So, I mean, look, I just think it doesn't even really matter at this point because, again, to talk about PJ's versatility now on the defensive end, he can be used in whatever they want to do. And we know that Spo is one to go into his bag when it comes to reaching into defensive coverages. And we've already seen it this season. We've seen it a lot over the past couple of seasons. They're going to be like, he's just perfect for what Spo is trying to do, whether you're talking about one-on-one defense, off-ball defense, helping, zoning, switching, dropping, he can do all of it, right? And I think that's why Spo loves him so much. Is obviously one of the reasons why he's somebody who is always going to get into other guys' bodies, again, on or off ball. Like, he's always going to use that acreage, that physicality of his, and he's going to make guys feel him. And part of the game is, whether you're talking about him guarding one of the best players in the league or not, is wearing the guys he's guarding down. And just over the course of a game, that is not somebody you want to face, because you're going to feel him every time, every moment that you're out there versus him. He's going to get up into you. And I just think that's something that they've been missing over the past couple of seasons so much. I know we talked about it a lot already this season when it comes to PJ. I just think that when Bam is back, it's going to be less stuff that PJ has to do, not only offensively, but defensively. So it's kind of good for him, I think, because he's been asked to do so much already. And I think because of his age and all the time that he's spent around basketball already, you want to kind of wind down a little bit before getting into that stretch in the playoffs where you got to go full 110% again, and he's going to be asked to do a lot of those things again. I just think whether as a 4 or as a 5, even though he's really been a 4 for the most part of the season, you could put him in the high post, you could put him in the corner as a 3, but he's going to be a release valve for all these other guys that the defenses are worried about. That's why he keeps getting all these easy shots, and Spo has just kind of made it simple. He's just keeping it simple out there for PJ on both ends of the floor right now, I think.
Brady?
Yeah, I think one of the first things, Ethan, that we mentioned when we walked into that scrimmage before the season, one of the first things that stood out was how loud PJ Tucker was, just in general, especially in the defensive end. Like, it was a scrimmage before the season, but he would not stop talking on that end of the floor. And I think that's something that has really stood out to me. Like, if you watch him on defense off the ball, as Alex, you were just mentioning, he's constantly waving guys around and telling them where to go, or he'll grab you and push you where you need to be. Like, that's what they miss, because Bam is such a talented defender. But the one thing everybody talks about is they need him to be more vocal. And UD has talked about that. PJ basically takes over that completely, that they don't need that. But I think you talked about him kind of slowing down the better players in the league. And I was looking at some numbers. Devin Booker, he held the 1 of 5 shooting the other night. Giannis went 3 of 9 when he was defending him. Middleton went 1 of 8. Vucevic, 1 of 8. Smaller sample size. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was 1 of 4. Domantas Sabonis 0 of 3. Towns 1 of 4, Tatum 0 of 3. You get the gist. Like, it's just every player that they put him on in that way, that he basically slows them down. And something we talked about on the last pod was something Spoelstra did against Utah early in the season, where he can flip a game just by changing the defensive matchup of PJ Tucker, where I said he put PJ on Gobert so then they could get the switch and put him on Donovan, because they just wanted PJ off of Donovan completely because he was just totally in his way. So they did that, and that was a big reason they ended up winning that game against Utah. And that's
He's
a special
36.
thing.
Yeah.
But it's also a PJ thing, because you're able to just put a guy like that and switch a game and turn a game around with a 36-year-old defensive guy. It's just crazy. And I think the biggest thing when looking bigger picture, you brought up Ariza last time, when you're looking last year, he was guarding the opposing team's point guards, where we were saying, oh, he can plug point of attack because he can guard down in a lot of ways. PJ can guard down and guard a point guard, but the biggest thing is he can guard a Vucevic and hold him to 1 of 8 shooting. Like, he can slow down bigs as well, and that's what makes it so versatile. Like, we talked about this being the ultimate Spoelstra guy, and I know Pat Riley talked a ton about him before the season, but like, this is legitimately a Spoelstra guy where he can put him on anywhere defensively. As we talked about before, he can go anywhere offensively, but just seeing him be able to put in so many different positions and actually play it at a high level. Like, we can talk about putting a 5 next to Bam and moving Bam to the 4. We can talk about trading for a 4 for a long term, but like, PJ Tucker is as safe in the starting lineup as any of the other three guys that are in there. Like, there's no way. I really feel like he's probably one of the most important players on the team, even counting the other guys.
Yeah, he's also safe in the closing lineup. That's the thing. He's safe in both lineups. And you know, again, the only other guys that you can say that about are Bam, Jimmy, and Kyle when they're healthy. You can't say that about Tyler. He doesn't start. And I'm not sure he's totally safe in the closing lineup. We know Duncan is not safe in the closing lineup, and at this point, is not safe in the starting lineup. Those are the four guys. He is one of the core four at this point. He is on the Jimmy, Kyle timeline here. But the thing you said, Brady, that I think we should close with, you called him the ultimate Spoelstra player. He's also the ultimate Riley player. It's like they found the one guy that they can completely agree upon, right? Like that's because he's the Riley guy from a mentality standpoint. He's old school in so many different ways. Pat loves him. We've talked about it. Loves the defensive stance. I love you. He helps other guys rebound. He sacrifices. But then also Eric I don't think that Pat envisioned Eric using him as this chess piece on offense in particular, maybe on defense, but not on offense. He is
move him around wherever.
Yeah, he's the blend of the two. I mean, he's really the blend. He's the ultimate compromise between the two of them in terms of stylistically. Like, and we'll close here. And again, we appreciate our sponsors. Of course, Eric Rubenstein, reach out 954-829-ERIC. Tense Nutrition, check them out in Coral Springs. Mention 5 reasons for 20% off. And of course, use our code 5RSN at Manscaped, Therapist Preferred, and getsalis.com and use the 5 at Prize Picks. But I'll just close here. I mean, we talk about him not being, well, you got to find a long-term 4, right? Like you're always looking for better. This organization's always looking for better. Maybe Bam ultimately is a 4. I don't think so. I think he's a 5 in the modern game. Okay. But like, do we envision this? I mean, could PJ, I mean, Udonis is still on the team at 41. I mean, could we envision a scenario where PJ Tucker outlasts this contract?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Right?
I could definitely see him re-upping for like I don't know, another 2 seasons or something on a lower number, maybe 3. I mean, it doesn't mean that he has to be in this role the whole time where he's going to be, high usage, low, like 30 minutes a game. The minutes will go down as he ages, but I could definitely see him like spending more time with the Heat. They seem like it should have been a match that should have happened earlier. I remember, by the way, I'm just going to close here. People wanted Bobby Portis, man. I'm so glad they made the right choice.
Let's call him out. Let's call him out, Mr. Barai. If you're making it to the end of this podcast, not only did you want Bobby Portis, Mr. Adam Barai, not Adam or whatever it is you are on Twitter these days, but you also mocked me for saying that PJ Tucker would be worth a first-round pick. I don't care that they didn't have to give it up for him. The reality is, for this team, he's worth a first-round pick. What he's doing for the Miami Heat is worth a first-round pick, especially with the way that they don't value the late first-round picks. So Alex and I were right. Adam was wrong. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.